Yeah, and first I can tell you, as I was submitting my session, I said, okay, I think it's a good idea to do something with AI and the metaverse in a combination. So maybe we will find out together today what happens if you combine both, because maybe at the beginning it's not so clear what should be a good combination there. So think about that somebody is wearing a VR headset, and then we have the AI behind it, maybe a robot or something else. Maybe it's a virtual way of AI. Um, I found it pretty hard at the beginning when I was thinking about the details of my session. So as I'm a fan of science fictions and fantasy movies, I thought, okay, maybe you get some impressions there. And if you don't know this movie, which is here at the top right corner, that's Ender's Game. And I love this because my name is Nicole Enders. And yes, the guy is called Ender. That's why it's Ender's Game, but it's very close to my name. And he is working with gestures, and he is controlling a whole system, a whole armada of ships, and there's a battle and so on. And then I said, maybe that's something, but I cannot go with it so far. So maybe Minority Report at the bottom left corner could be something very similar with the gestures. But then we have to think about all the stuff we know about AI. So if you go to science fiction films, then you see, for example, iRobot or Matrix. And in this way, the AI is something we should tell not so really good. So the AI learns that it's better than the human, and then we have the machines and the AI, which is at the top of the hierarchy, and the humans are there and have to follow what the AI says. But that's not the way I'm thinking about. And if we go to Microsoft technology at all, then that's the same. So if I look around in my daily business, so I work a lot of this Microsoft technology, then AI seems to be everywhere. Sometimes it's very small, so we don't really see what's going on there. So maybe it's a functionality in a Teams meeting. Maybe we have the way that we can do a complete automatic translation of some stuff or so on. And if you go to the products, then we see a few logos here. We have something like Viva Topics, that's the AI-driven knowledge management. We have something like Microsoft Syntax. So that goes the way that we are talking about automatic translation or analyzing of documents, and then we get an idea if this document is a proposal or if it's a documentation or something else. The AI builder is something which I talk quite often about because I really like this tool that's a part of the Power Platform. And if you see at the bottom right example, we see the logo of the Microsoft Designer. So if you want to generate AI based pictures, then that's also quite good. But today we will talk a little bit about Microsoft Copilot, and that's the icon we see here. So Microsoft Copilot, we will find out a little bit about this. And then, because we have a combination of AI and the metaverse, we need to talk about the metaverse also, because this can be quite different always. So maybe you see my avatar here. So that's my avatar I'm using in Mesh for Teams. I was looking that it looks quite similar to me, but for example, my hairdress is a little bit different, and I know this. And then I'm always looking, okay, this avatar is not completely me. There are other tools out there. I know that I can get a little bit better. So maybe you use the chance today to go to Spatial.io and check out what we prepared here for the conference. There I have an avatar which looks a little bit more than I, because he's using one of my pictures as a base, and then his suggestion what about my hairdress, my clothes and so on. But that's more virtual reality, so we don't see anything about us. Maybe you want to go a little bit in another direction. So see these two people who are watching a city here, so the different buildings. That's more way of mixed reality. So you see your room, you see what you are doing, you see other people who are standing in the same room as you, but you see digital twins of different things. So here in this case, that's a city they see. Maybe if you look with the people who are using the headsets here in the other examples, maybe you see your room, but you see other information. Think about that. There's a mechanic who has to adjust the machine, and he doesn't know what's going on there. Then it would be great that somebody else or a guide, that can be an AI-based guide, can help him and say, okay, at this place, you have to adjust a little bit. And then the machine works better. So in this case, there's also mixed reality, but I'm pretty sure the guy who has so much fun here at the bottom right corner, he is playing something. Maybe he is playing Beat Saber or whatever. So he doesn't see anything around him. Or maybe he has just so much fun that he meets other people. See the people we see here on the notebook. This is also Mesh for Teams, but the immersive spaces, which will roll out in the upcoming months. I think we heard something about this in the keynote this morning from Jeff Tieper. Yeah, so I got a lot of impressions, and then I was thinking again, what would be my use case for this session? Because I love to tell a story about a use case and how can we solve the problem and so on. So the challenge can be really hard. So I have a lot of stuff. I have different options for the metaverse. I have different options for AI. Do I want to show you a complete finished example, or I want to show you something where you have to be a software developer, or can we do something which can be done by maybe not every person, but with some trainings, nearly every person. And then I said, okay, that's a good idea, because I don't want that you go out of the session and you say, okay, I heard a lot of stuff, but I have no idea how to adjust this to my business. So you will see an example which can be work for everybody. So today I will be your cook. So maybe we are doing some kind of a cooking class. So I didn't do my my introduction slide at the beginning, because now it's the right part. So you see here a picture of me. I did a cooking class a few weeks ago. So I was on vacation and I learned in Valencia how to do an origin paella. So it was a little bit surprising because I was expecting paella with seafood, and then I was looking for all the stuff I thought which is in a paella, but it wasn't. And some steps were quite easier as I was expecting them as well. So today I hope that everybody of you sees that there are only a few steps you need to take, and then you can build your own solution with mixed reality components. But more about this in a few seconds. If you want to stay in contact with me, or if you want to follow all the stuff I'm doing, then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and on X. I need to get familiar that it's not called Twitter anymore. And you find my favorite hashtags there. So I'm doing a lot of in the modern workplace at all. And if it comes to technology, then it's Microsoft Teams, the Power Platform, and all the stuff around. So think about business applications, collaborative apps, and mixed reality for sure is also one of my favorite topics. So that's why I'm here. And if we now cook together, I want to say, let's start with the Power Platform. We only need to get a glimpse of Power Apps knowledge, and then we will see, okay, what's going on with the Copilot, because the Copilot for the Power Platform is already available for us. There are some prerequisites I could tell, but I will walk you through. And then if we're using the Copilot, we can build our app. We have to do some stuff manually, so we don't get everything by the Copilot, but that's fine because it's a Copilot and not an autopilot. And at the end, it would be great to have a smartphone or another mobile device. It can also be a tablet because we need the camera of this device. And we want to scan our room and check some stuff. So what's about our scenario? I thought a good idea is I'm always thinking about if I can buy some pieces of furniture for my room. So I don't have such a big living room here. So today I'm here sitting in the home office. That's a living room and working room at the same time. And I'm thinking, if I'm thinking about buying a new armchair or whatever, then I need to check if it fits in the place. And so my example is I want to build an app based on AI. So I don't want to do everything on my own. And then at the end, I want to have this app to select a piece of furniture, maybe a wardrobe, a bookshelf or whatever, and then check if it fits in my room. And if I'm not sure about the size, then maybe I want to measure this at the beginning also. Yeah, and Copilot promised me that he can do a lot of things for me. So what is Copilot all about? So for all the persons who don't know, what is Copilot? As I heard about Copilot the first time, I thought, okay, it's a tool, it's an assistant, maybe it's some kind of a better version of Clippy. If you know, Clippy was the small icon, this assistant in Word, Excel, PowerPoint or so, which was not so really helpful, to be honest. And I thought, okay, we have a better version, we have more data, we have now AI knowledge here. So maybe that's a Clippy 2.0 or so. Yeah, but Mr. Copilot, he's not a single person, I would say. He has different faces. So we have a Copilot for Microsoft 365, for Dynamics, for Viva, for Bing and Edge. There's also Copilot for security stuff if you want to secure your tenant, and even for Windows 11. So if you don't find the right settings in Windows 11, and I have this problem sometimes also, then you can go with your Copilot in the future, and then he will tell you that he can manage all the stuff for you. But for now, we will focus on the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and there especially on the Power Platform. So if you talk about the Copilot a little bit on introduction, what's going behind, Copilot is really, really helpful, but it's also based on technology we already knew or used in the past. So think about the Microsoft Search and the Microsoft Graph. They're already there, and that's not a few weeks ago that they were published. We are using them since years. So Microsoft Graph is the API for all the different services like Teams and SharePoint, the Power Platform, Planner, To Do, and whatever. So it's an API layer. And the Microsoft Search is quite relevant because if you want to find information about some stuff, then you need to have a really good search and indexing in the background. What's new and what is really special now when we are going with the Copilot is the large language model which is used. So think about that. It doesn't matter which search engine you are using. In the past, you had to learn how to enter the data in a search engine that you get really good results. And if you didn't get the right result, then there were two ways. So the one way was that you work with filtering, and you have to select which metadata has to be at your information to get the right piece of information you really need. And the other way was, okay, forget about filtering and so on. I didn't get the right result, so I have to enter another search term or a complete other search term to get my result. I hope so. With the large language model, it's now so much easier because you are having a conversation with your search engine. So the Copilot knows what are the different data sources. So he has this semantic index. And then you're talking with the Copilot. So the Copilot maybe doesn't understand you at the first try, but then you tell him what he did wrong or what he did not do completely, and then he can adjust the way he is searching for. And here's also a graphic for the whole functionality. So if you start at the top left corner, here with the Microsoft 365 apps, then we have first the user prompt, so the input. And that's going to the Copilot, but it's not going directly to the large language model. So he's first doing the same he did or the system did in the past. So he's going to the Microsoft Graph and is getting all the necessary information. And then we have the large language model, which is working here. We are getting here more information, and then at the end, we get the response. So that's the way it's working. So it's not a chatbot as in the past that you have a question and then you get an answer and everything is prepared in a database behind. So it's a real engine who's working with your input, is combining it with other data it finds, and then you get a response. And if you are not lucky with it, then you have this learning part during your conversation. If you finish the conversation and you start completely new, then maybe you will have the same learning part as well. But for the time of your conversation, it can be really, really helpful. And if we now go with the example of the Power Platform, I will show this in the demo environment in a few seconds, also live. We have here our Power Apps environment. So in this case, I have the environment Pioneers, and that's an environment which is located in the United States. So at the moment, and that's always with new functionality, we have this functionality in US, and then it will roll out in European regions and different regions as well. But if you want to check the newest stuff, then it's always a good idea to have some kind of an experimental environment or tenant who can go with the US functionality. So, and if you go here, you can select one of the examples, yes, for sure, but you can also add your own commands here. And here in this input field, you describe in natural language, what do you want to expect as a new app? And I will do this with a little bit longer example, and we will check what he is doing. The next step after you entered your data is that he wants to extract which data needs to be stored in your app. And for this data, he wants to use Metaverse. So that's why he says, okay, I have here a recommendation for you. My example is about furniture. So he says, okay, you need the furniture items table, and these are the different metadata he extracted from my prompt. And then if you can also do some adjustments, you can do them manually, so you can do them via the Copilot, which is the pane here on the right side. But at the end, you say, okay, I'm fine. I want to have this app generated. It takes a little while. And at the end, you are in the Maker portal here from Power Apps, and then you can do everything you want to do by your own, or as you also have the pane right here, you can go with a Copilot and say, okay, I want to add a button, I want to add a label at this place, and so on. But it really matters what you enter for the Copilot. So my example will have 2 sentences. So, oh my God, I entered 2 sentences. If you go with both of them, you get something like this. So you see we have a gallery right here, and we have the different pieces of furniture like an armchair, wardrobe, table, and so on. If I go with only one of my example sentences, then I get a different layout because he's thinking I'm not interested in the pieces of furniture. I'm interested in the different room types. So a living room, a bedroom, a kitchen, and so on. So in this way, I said, okay, you don't need to learn so much about how to enter data in a search engine. Yes, but you need to learn how to communicate with your Copilot. So the Copilot needs to learn a lot of stuff about you, and you need to learn if you can add 2 sentences or if you need to add more information in 1 sentence or so. Because if you see here, we also have a lack to the example I'm thinking about. So he didn't add some stuff like mixed reality components, which are already available as components here in the Power Platform. He only added a gallery, we have a data source, and it looks not so pretty. I'm thinking more about an app like this. So an app with 4 screens. We have a start screen, and then we have a screen where we can select some stuffs like the office chair, a TV, or whatever. And we can also measure what's going on in our room. When you did the measuring, so you know, okay, I have the space in my room, then on the third screen, I want to check if an armchair, for example, looks nice. I want to take a picture. That's the one we see on the fourth screen. And then maybe later on, I want to add some functionality like adding a shopping cart, supporting the whole process to buy this piece of furniture. So that's why we have this coming soon button right there. Yeah, but let's check what's going on if we go with Copilot. Maybe I also said it, but here in this case, we have the Power Platform. We are now going here with our assistant. And I think I have it right here. So I'm not clicking on enter, so please don't worry, but it's a lot of stuff I've wrote here. So I said, okay, scan a room with the camera. That was my expectation, that he would check, okay, I need the mixed reality component, and check if there's enough space to buy an armchair, wardrobe, or table. That was the first sentence, and the next sentence is about offer a set of pieces of furniture to be added to a shopping cart and buy selected items. Okay, let's check what he's doing. Now we are at the screen where he's thinking about the data structure we need. So he says, okay, here's a table for your app. And we also already see on the right side that we have this panel right here. Here's my input. And then I can have a conversation with the Copilot. So let's check what he did. He said, okay, I have here this table. I have an ID field because you need an ID field nearly in every data structure. And then he says, okay, I have here the name, so the armchair, wardrobe, and so on. I say the type. So I was not thinking about a type, but that's nice. So an armchair and a chair is of type chair. Wardrobe and cabinet. That looks nice. But what about price and color and size, material, quantity? I'm not sure if everything is right. So maybe I say, okay, I don't need the quantity and price. Color is maybe better. So now we will check what he's doing, because my expectation is that he will now remove these columns for us, but he needs to think what he is doing. Here's the update for furniture items. And as maybe you already saw this, but I scroll here. We don't have the color anymore, and we don't have the quantity. So now that's the way you can say, okay, I want to do a lot of with the Copilot. I want to generate my app right now. That's the way how you could do this. And if you prepare this, so as I said, if you go only with one sentence or if you go with both, it looks a little bit different. I have opened the previous tries right here. So maybe I go with this one. So this one right here is about the the armchair, and all the stuff we have here in the gallery. Maybe not everything is collected in the right way, but what did he do? He generated an app which is usable as a tablet or desktop version. But I'm thinking about the smartphone usage. It would mean I need to adjust a lot of stuff. So always check what the Copilot is doing for you. So maybe you need to tell him when creating your app that you need an app for your smartphone, and then everything will be adjusted a little bit better. But if we go in here, so I want to maybe add a button. I select here the detail screen for my selected item, and I say, okay, add a button, for example. Something went wrong. Try again or share your feedback. I see this quite often, so maybe I reload this page. Maybe he has only a problem with the session. Let's see. It's loading. Because I can tell you while he's loading. If you now want to add a button, you know this when you add something in Power Apps, then it depends which container or gallery you have selected. So here in this case, I'm expecting if I select here this part, that's the form here in this case, you can also go with the main container, which is around here. And then I say add a button, that he adds a button right here in this area. So thinking about this. And my expectation was not fulfilled. So as you can see here, I have a button here at the top left corner. You can see also here in the main screen, he's added at the top level of the screen. Yes, I can adjust it, but it's not belonging right here to my form or to the container. So I have to do a lot of copy and paste stuff right here. And that was a little bit disappointing. So I said, okay, I need to check when do I use a Copilot here in my situation. If we go with insert, you have the mixed reality components right here. And even if I use this complete name, the Copilot said he does not know this component. He cannot add this at the moment. So I'm pretty sure in the future, the Copilot will be aware of a lot of other stuff. But at the moment, he doesn't know the mixed reality components. It's not so bad because we can use the Copilot to do the whole structure around, and then adding our own components, which are missing in this situation later on. So I did this. So because in the session, it would take a lot of more time to do this completely on our own. I have prepared something, and we will see this right here. And I need to check where we start. So as I said on the slide already, we have 4 different screens, starting with the home screen. The home screen, that's quite nice because you don't need to do so much stuff. I only said that I want to go with a background image. There are a lot of images for this conference, so I selected one of these. And then I said, okay, I want to add an image here as well, that's the image 1. And I selected our logo. And the last point I have here is the button. Here's only a navigate in the on select event. So I want to go to the measure screen right here. So let's go to the measure screen. And I open this here. And you also get a note here that you need your camera, so you can really test your app when you are going and publish it, and then you use it on your smartphone. We will see the end result after we walk through this app here in the design mode. Yeah, so what did I do here? I have a gallery. So if you go here with the gallery, and this gallery is going here. In my case, I selected a SharePoint list. So I have a SharePoint list. You have here the Office Share TV and so on. So all the stuff we see. And I selected here the way that I go with the 3D model of the different elements. And as you maybe don't know, if you are using Windows, there's a 3D viewer on your system. And with the 3D viewer, you can go through a gallery and you can search for different stuff, and you find so many models right there. And I said, okay, I will go with a few of them. You see the selected ones also on the slide when we come back to the PowerPoint presentation. So, but that's my data source. So we have the items and we have the attachment. And here in this case, that's only that I adjusted this gallery a little bit so I don't see the arrow to go to a detail view. I only see which element is selected. And we have here 3 elements which are relevant. If we are talking about 3D objects, we need the height, the width, and the depth. And we want to measure it because, yes, I could say, okay, in my SharePoint list, every piece of furniture has its size, and that's pretty sure. But in my world, I can wish that an armchair has the size I need in my room, so I can buy an armchair which would be completely different as, for example, you would buy this, because you have other space in your room. So let's go here with the measure element. That's the one. If we go here, mixed reality and measure in MR. If you select this, you have a lot of stuff you can adjust, but the most important things I did is that I said, okay, what's my unit? So it's centimeters in my case. You can also go with inches and feet or meters. But centimeters, that's much better for me because I don't have such this huge room. And the measure type, it's a distance. So I only want to measure the distance between 2 points. So that's fine for me. You can also go with an area or volume, or you can say, okay, free form. But as you will see in the 2 video clips I have, I find it really hard to go with the 2 distances on a smartphone. That's only my personal problem, I know. But if you are more familiar with measuring something, then maybe all the other options will be fine for you as well. So I said distance and I said centimeters. And that's it, because I didn't adjust the name right here. The drop downs we see here, if you add a drop down at first, then it has some sample data. I added the measure in MR1, that's our control name here, the measurements. Because if you are going and measure the distances, then you will do one for the height, one for the width, one for the depth. So you have 3 measurements in the component, and then here in this case you can select them in the drop down. So every drop down has the same data source here in this way. I know we could also say, okay, it's an automatic way. So the first measurement is the height, the second one is the width, and so on. But if you are doing the measurement, maybe you would say, oh my God, I did a mistake. I measured the width first, and now I need to do everything completely new. So in this case, you can select it afterwards when you return to the app screen. So if you did this selection right here, then you can say, okay, check your selection. And that's the way where we go to the search screen. And the search screen, for me, it was quite easy because I said, okay, I copied the second one. And then I removed the drop downs and I changed the value here for the labels. So I said, okay, it's not a text like heat, for example, so it's a concatenate. And I go with the selected length value of the drop down. So you can get information from a different screen. If you didn't know this so far, you don't need to add everything on the same screen. And so in this case, I didn't do a measurement so far, but he says, okay, 100 centimeters is the value he has in the component at the moment. And then I want to view it in mixed reality, so MR. Yeah, and here in this case, you need to do a little bit more. So what do we need to adjust? We need to go with the source. We see the source already here. The source, that's the 3D model. we need from the gallery, respectively, from the SharePoint list. So the selected item has an attachment. So we say, okay, gallery 1, that's the one we have here on the second screen. Selected, that's the item of the SharePoint list. And then we say attachments. And attachments is it's a collection. So we need to say, okay, we want to get the first one and its value. So that's the path to the 3D model. And that's the one we see here in this preview. The other stuff we need to check is the width, height, and depth. So if you go here, the object width, you can say, okay, that's from the drop down for the width, for example, selected, and length, height and depth, the same. So you see it looks pretty the same. And you can also go on the Power Platform for sure and add here the properties as well. These are the adjustments you need to do. So you insert the right components you want, like view in MR, or on the other screen, the measure in MR. And then you say, okay, now I want to buy this furniture. And that's the last screen. And maybe you're already thinking about this. So the last screen looks a bit similar like the first one. So I duplicated this as well. And I only changed that it's not showing the icon for the Metaverse 1 conference. Now it's showing the view in MR photos property and the first one. And here we need to go with the image URI. So how does it look like if we now would say, okay, we save it, we publish it. Let's go back to the PowerPoint slide, because here you can see these are the 3D models so far. So I have my notebook, my armchair, the office chair, and so on. And I think in my example, I have one example with the desk and one with the armchair. So let's check what's first here. So here in this case, we say, okay, I selected the desk, I said measure in MR. And here I have a very small room I'm selecting, and you see the dots on the bottom. So if I see the dots, sometimes it takes a little time, then I can start measuring. So I click on the plus sign, and then when I am ready and I have the other point, then I have to click on the checking mark, which is green here at the bottom. So I have my first measurement. And as you can see, I would not be good if this would be my profession, that I would need to measure something, because they are not fitting right together. But I'm thinking about 44 centimeters, that looks nice. And then I want to get the height of my desk. I'm not sure, but 72 centimeters looks nice. I say, okay, please transfer it. And then I can go to the drop downs, can check what is the height, width, and depth. And if I'm fine with it, then I want to go to the next screen and check my selection. So in this case, I want to see what's going on with my desk. And now that's the next point. I need to wait until I find these dots at the bottom, because then I can set the position. And here you can see my desk. Yes, it's not so big as I was expecting. So now I can adjust it a little bit. And as you can see here, I want to have it very close to the height of the sideboard. And then I can take a picture. Maybe I take more than one. So in my case, I only show the first one, but think about that. You want to have different pictures and then you want to send them to a person. Yeah, in this case, I can say, okay, now I'm fine. I can send it to a different person and I can go and buy my stuff. So maybe it's a desk only for me with very different sizes as you would have them if you go to a shop or so. So the other example, that's more if you would be in an open space. Here in this case, we have different pieces of furniture already there, but there's some space where I would say, okay, the armchair, the red armchair, maybe that's nice if he's there. I don't see the dots. So as you can see, it depends a little bit on the light, on the other stuff which is around in this room, that it takes a while. I'm thinking about, yeah, okay, 45 centimeters. Maybe the width should be a little bit more. I want to have it here. And then if I'm thinking about the height, I can go right there, or say, okay, I know what I need on the bottom, so you don't need to adjust everything on the complete correct way. I know that an architect would say something different, but I'm not an architect at this moment. Yeah, and then I say, okay, transfer, and now I can check it again in the drop downs. And if I then come back to the room and I want to check if the armchair looks nice in the way I measured the available space, then you can say, okay, takes a while for the dots again. So this scenario here, I did a lot of moving from left to right because I wasn't sure why the dots didn't show up. At the end, I recognized, okay, I didn't show him enough from the bottom where he can place the situation. So here I was going back, and I was really happy when the dots finally arrived. So here they are. And then I added my armchair. Well, maybe I don't want to have it bigger. Maybe I want to move it, but now it looks nice the way it is there. And then I said, okay, now I swap my camera. So I want to take the picture with a little bit more stuff right there. Going back from the orientation. And then I had my stuff right here. So these are the two examples. So you could do this with a bookshelf and all the other pieces as well. It depends that you have your 3D model right there. Maybe you go with a 3D viewer. Maybe you also go with other possibilities you have there. And then you only need to go with the two different components we have in the Power App available. And you can go with the Copilot to adjust a lot of things. So if you tell him at the beginning, I want to have an app which is dedicated for a smartphone, and I want to have 4 screens with these and these components, and it's working. But the stuff for the mixed reality component, that will be something which needs to be done by you. Yeah, and that's all I have prepared so far. So thank you very much. And now I'm curious if we have any questions. I cannot hear you, Ferdi. You're muted. I see that you're talking. But...
My mouth is open. Whoa, what for great examples, Nicole. You talk about Copilot, about Mesh, about PCF components and Power Apps. And I try it in my test version in my tenant in US. It's fantastic. Thank you for this great session. So attendees, if you have questions, then write in the chat or raise your hand. So the first question, Nicole, in the chat.
I see it. I'm wondering about what's the question behind the question. What's beyond code generation tools?
Code generations.
Yeah, I think we have, or maybe we already had, I'm not sure about the schedule, some sessions on this event where we are talking about what is if you have your avatar in your in the metaverse in your meetings or whatever, and then there's an AI behind the avatar. So you have some stuff where you need to for sure to talk about security or compliance stuff, because if I don't know if there's a real person behind it or if it's a bot or an AI component, that can be something. And then code generation is stuff where you could build your bot. So it's always so combined, everything here. In my session, I wanted to talk about a little bit different. So if you're talking about the mixed reality stuff, the Power Apps tools and so on, but code generation is something I think we need to talk about this in the future quite often, because if there's an AI who generates your code, who checks what's going on with the code? So is this a correct code, or can you use this